Good evening and namaskar, everybody. Well, I welcome all of you to this Sunday webinar of Philosophy Family. Well, we have with us Professor Hamidulla Marazi, sir. Professor Maraji has delivered a number of talks in Philosophy Family, very interesting talks. He speaks on religious issues, interreligious dialogues, and he also had delivered lectures on the feministic issues arising out of the religious dialogues. Now, today he is with us. He will be delivering a lecture on uh, interreligious dialogue and its present day relevance. And I think it's a beautiful topic. And as usual, we'll be having a very nice talk from Professor Marazi. And I also hope we have good participants. And I think we have with us Professor Avinash. Srivastava sir, we have Rajit Ghosh sir and others. Okay, I think we will be having a very nice discussion this evening. And at present, Professor Marazi is a visiting researcher at ISTSC Malaysia. Uh, um, uh, he's a specialist on religious issues, and he wants to bring in religious peace and harmony by bringing forth academic dialogues between researchers belonging to different communities. So I think we'll be having a very nice discussion this evening. With these words, I welcome Professor Maraji and also everybody connected with this evening's webinar. So, with lot of hope of getting much good discussion on this issue, I welcome all and I welcome Professor Maraji for delivering the talk. Namaskar, sir. Please, your talk, sir. Please, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Rao. Thank you, Professor Pramod Kumar Das ji. Thank you, Professor Ranjit Ghosh ji, Professor Avinash Srivastava ji, and all other friends, colleagues, and students. Good evening. So today we are going to discuss a very interesting subject that will be interreligious dialogue. But before talking on the subject, I would like to say that there has been a theory known as clash of civilization propounded by Samuel Huntington, in which he has mentioned about clash of civilizations, where there is no possibility of dialogue. I was thinking seriously on the subject and I have written also on the topic. I feel that in the Western context, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis are very important. So unless and until you have antithesis, you can't have any thesis. And unless and until you have antithesis, you can't have synthesis. But this is something which is very much worrying, that they have to create an enemy if there is no enemy. It seems, as has been mentioned by a great scholar of Turkey, whose name was Bediüzzaman Nursi, that Western attitude and Weltanschauung worldview is based on philosophy, because all the philosophies have emerged in West in a sense. Although in East also we have a great philosophies, but these philosophies are different in nature. The philosophies which have emerged in the West, where there is a very important place for conflict and disagreement and I should say criticism. But in the East we have religions. Most of the religions have emerged in the East. And in the religion we have dialogue, we have samvad, and we have reconciliation. So maybe for that reason, the theories which have been propounded so far by the Western scholars, starting from Darwin, survival of the fittest, Marx, the fight between haves and have-nots, and then clash of civilization. So these theories are starting with the clash, with conflict. But in our part of the world, mostly we talk about interactions, we talk about dialogue, we talk about samvad. And there has been a constant dialogue among different religions in the East. And out of that dialogue, many new trends emerged. Whether it is Buddhism, there had been dialogue among the, I should say, we have the Buddhists who believed in one set of thought, and the Buddhists they have different views, Hinayana and Mahayana, and also then we have Ramanuju, and we have people who have talked about uh, I should say Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, Dvaita Vedanta, and Shankara and others. In the same way, in the Islamic tradition, we have Mu'tazilites, then we have Asharites, and they have dialogue, and something new emerged out of that. And then we have Sufism, and Sufis had also a great dialogue with their contemporaries, and they came out with such interpretation which was acceptable to a great extent to all the parties. So this seems that in the eastern part, oriental part, dialogue is very important, and samvad is very important, whereas in the western context, there had been clash, there had been thesis, antithesis. So this may be the starting point with which I want to start. And nowadays, how much is the importance of the interreligious dialogue? For example, in the Indian context, when the a moment for the partition was taking place, before that the war of independence was taking place, the Muslims, Hindus, and other communities, they were joining their hands in order to fight for a cause. So they had a very good dialogue among themselves, and then they just reached to several conclusions, and they worked together in tandem. So in this way, we can talk about interreligious dialogue in two contexts. One is the Western context, and second is the Oriental or the context of the East. Interreligious dialogue in contemporary society is done to create better relationships between people belonging to different religions by bringing them together in dialogue. It thus aims to establish peace and harmony in a society which has been devastated by conflicts between the religions in most parts of the world. There are at least three important aspects in dialogue in this regard. First, the perception of the plurality of the world, religions, between which dialogue should occur. So it shows that there are different religions which have different identities, and there should be, dialogue amongst them. In other words, now we have also Western constructions of religion and its plural religions. Religion as a separate category is opposite to secular, that is world religion categories, and the European colonial creation of religious identities. For people in East have seldom been questioned in dialogue. Second, the uncritical reception and interpretation of religious conflicts or conflicts in the name of religion, and the failure to appreciate that religious conflicts are not religious, but they are more than that, and they may be hardly religious in all senses. Third, the elite nature of dialogue, in which grassroots people and their life and issues either become silent objects of discussions or are passive listeners to whom the knowledge of dialogue should be passed on. Accordingly, the elite nature of dialogue has ignored the actual living conditions of the people who are living at the grassroots level, and their identities are not being discussed while people are just having dialogue. To be more effective in contemporary world, dialogue needs revision itself, making use of the insights available from how grassroots people understand religions, use religious and other identities, perceive religious conflicts, and relate with their neighbors from other communities, including religions in spite of conflicts. Especially the multiple identities exercised in grassroots living, both crossing single fixed religious identity as crossing religious identities, can help those involved in dialogue to enhance their thinking and activities for constructing better models in their efforts for creating peace and harmony between people in the context of conflict and violence. Can religions be put into single unified systems and differentiated from each other? Why are conflicts between religions often spoken about and uncritically accepted in their dialogue circles? If there are many causes for conflicts, why is religion claimed as the prime cause? What are the different ways people at the grassroots level understand and perceive relationships between religions and how do they live their everyday life in such contexts. And how are these different from elite conceptions of religion and dialogue? Theoretically, the discussion of the limitations of dialogue in the present context may be started with observing the ambiguities in dialogue. Firstly, etymologically speaking, dialogue means conversation between two or more people, and therefore interreligious dialogue means conversation between people belonging to different religions. Applied in this sense, any conversations between people with different religious identities, both in the past and the present, could be considered as interreligious dialogue. In such interactions, the goals of dialogue vary from polemics and apologetics to understanding and learning from each other, or just an exchange of information. Moreover, the conversation does not need to be just about religion, but it can be on any issue or concern. It is simply dialogue, conversation between people with different religious identities. But in the contemporary period, interreligious dialogue is not simply any conversation between people with different religious identities. Rather, it is presented as an important step in understanding one's own religion and one's neighbor's religions, and thus a step towards better understanding and relationships between people of different religions. The presupposition is that dialogue helps to eliminate religious conflicts and tensions because religions have the potential to further the cause of world peace if the process is explicated through dialogue. Dialogue is an approach in which positive attitudes and openness to other religions are implied, the view being that such positive attitudes between members of different religions are necessary to create better relationships among humans in society. This positive attitude varies from showing mutual openness and mutual sharing among the participants while keeping the distinctive features of their respective religions or affirming and acknowledging the differences between religions while emphasizing the unity of aim or intention of all religions, even though the latter is sometimes criticized in dialogue circles. Such dialogue is not just a practical activity, but it has become a sort of adult stance which is different from the actualities of dialogue. In this approach, the dialogue promoters write about it or articulate it purely in terms of theory and principle. In formal dialogue, it is more than an ordinary two-way conversation, for it refers to particular types of conversation or conversation with particular attitudes. Thus, the term dialogue has been conceptualized, essentialized, and imbued with ideas which refer to meanings beyond conversation, such as positive attitudes and tolerant approaches. Therefore, new dialogue, which is a genuine dialogue or dialogue with a positive attitude, breaks with the tainted interreligious interactions of the past. According to this perspective, the new version is appropriate for the contemporary context. The alternate perspective, and one which rejects this tainted and pure dichotomy, links contemporary formal dialogue to the various interreligious interactions of the past, discerning common assumptions and intentions. The above perspectives are not absolute. Indeed, often the two poles touch the past, called to add strength and validity to the present. Kawad, a scholar and author, talks about every contact between India and the Greco-Roman world. Mughal Emperor Akbar's summons to Jesuit Christians to take part in theoretical debates, the exchanges between European missionaries and Hindu elites like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Dayanand Saraswati, Keshab Chandra Sen, Vivekananda, and Radhakrishnan, within a framework of the past Hindu-Christian dialogue, which he nevertheless then downplays. But dialogue, or precisely the awareness of and the emphasis on it, is a very new development in the global context and also in India. The idea that followers of different religions should participate in dialogue activities in order to understand the religions of each other and to create healthy relationships among them is a relatively new trend. while a general understanding of interreligious relations is that people with different religious identities are meeting, interacting, and relating with each other in various ways. As in the past, the advocated dialogue is mostly associated with the imperative ought. In other words, the ideas of interreligious links are there should be dialogue. The urgency of the time demands it. People of different religions must come together in dialogue to overcome religious conflicts. Commonly, with the unspoken pressure that failure to engage in dialogue may contribute to or even cause violence, and proper preparation is necessary for taking part in dialogue. These are some of the important questions which are being raised by the people when we start talking about dialogue. A striking picture of formal dialogue is the assumption that it is not happening among ordinary people and that this is the cause for religious conflicts and violence in society. Solved only when the grassroots are educated about dialogue. This approach may imply that ordinary people are the perpetrators of religious conflicts. Of course, it is true that dialogue, as articulated by its exponents, is not happening among many common and ordinary people, but is restricted to the formal dialogue programmers, which are mostly attended by elites. But what is ignored here is the fact that people belonging to different religions at various spaces, times in history, and levels were and are in continuous interaction. While many times these everyday interreligious relations are ignored, sometimes they are treated as superficial and shallow, being not theologically grounded or being done by unsophisticated villagers. Against the ordinary familiar and local interreligious relationships in the everyday living context, people are encouraged to take part in faithful and genuine dialogue. Dialogue is found in academic and non-academic fields in various parts of the globe. It has acquired a significant place in the field of theology, particularly in Christian theology and in religious studies. Universities have departments and centers of dialogue and offer programs and courses in it. And there are a number of centers and programs outside university institutions as well, widely endorsed and spoken about by ashrams, churches, and organizations, government and non-governmental organizations. This is mainly because of the assumption that the world is perceived as divided on the basis of religions, and hence efforts for dialogue are necessary to bring schism. Uh, Dialogue is encouraged because it is claimed or at least assumed that religions have potentials to create clashes between people and or plays a part in many such clashes. It is developed both in terms of its concept and practice. At the conceptual level, religions are compared in terms of their commonalities, their influences on and relations to each other. And at the practical level, various interreligious meetings, discussion forums, and programs are arranged. Discussions of common themes and the notion of religions together for the common welfare of human beings are some important aspects of dialogue among interested theologians. One common assumption appears to be that just as cultures are said to do this or that, so too religions are said to dialogue. Neither of these abstract nouns such as religion or culture actually do anything, of course. Rather, do people with this or that ethnic or religious level, accurate or not, act in certain ways. This kind of formal group to group dialogue has dominated the Eastern context, especially Indian, Christian, and Muslim thinking, since the post independence period, and it continues to do so in spite of criticisms aimed at it from the so called or self proclaimed conservatives or evangelists who fear syncretism, relativism, dilution, and compromise. In India, dialogue was proposed as a viable tool for relations and relationships among followers of different religions after independence. When the question of the relationship of religious minorities in India, such as Christians and Muslims with Hindus, Buddhists and Sikhs, became vital. and against the background of the religiously based and also violent partition. Indian national building was put forward as a common platform where people belonging to different religions could come together and relate with each other, believing that basically misunderstanding of religions among people leads to conflicts. Dialogue claims that religious conflicts can be eliminated when people of different religions come together in dialogue. At this stage, the common humanity, its dignity and fullness needs to be shared, which should become our common concern for that humanity. To borrow these words from World Council of Churches report of 1961. We need to underline this fact that a full and loyal commitment to one's own faith does not stand in the way of a dialogue. Whatever is good in the faith of others with whom we come into contact, we should have no hesitation to acknowledge. Thus, the plurality of the faiths, all the religious pluralism is a necessary condition for ensuring fruitful dialogue, and no single religion should claim the monopoly of truth. Moreover, we need to avoid the general tendency of uncritically accepting stereotyping, due usually to social isolation, ignorance, and estrangement inherited from the past. The vulgar polemics in which rival religious communities often indulge, creating bad faith and leading to bitter bickering, need to be checked by the scholars of various religious seriously. By the scholars of various religions seriously. Can religion provide solution to the social and economic problems of man? In this scientific age, should be the focus of understanding of various religious perspectives. Because there are critics who say that religion no longer can cope up with the challenges posed to our social life on the basis of scientific knowledge. Because so far, by and large, religions have been incapable of adjusting themselves with the progress of scientific knowledge. Is a very important question and which needs our special attention. It sometimes seems that religions are the relics of the past, desperately struggling for survival in the scientific age. The superstitions and the nature of superstitions of some of the religious teachings in all religions are posing a great challenge to the future of religion. And most of the educated are at the verge of losing their faith. In other words, we can say this sympathetic study of religions other than one's own is an attitude of the modern mind induced by the recognition of the fact that plurality of faiths is not something contingent but rooted in the human situation. And so, if different religious communities are to live together in peace and amity, each must, while believing in the truth of its own faith, try to find and assimilate truth in the faith of other communities. Though this understanding is very difficult to achieve because every religion is a unique entity with its history and there has not been the one uniform line of development. But it should not make us hopeless about the final end of the process of interreligious and interreligious understanding, because still at the level of mystical experience, the diversity of religions is resolved into unity. Since the religious statements are not like the scientific statements, whose evidence is not person dependent, but it always refers to faith of some experience or faith in some person or scripture. The emotive truth of religion is an exclusive truth. And in this sense, a particular religion is the only religion for its followers. A monotheist cannot respect a polytheist. Moreover, religions cannot be described in any realistic sense as equal, nor can we prove the claims of various religions in any way. Therefore, a religion, while holding its distinctionness intact, has to address other religions without diluting its essence. But despite these hard realities, all attempts at interreligious understanding are assuming increasingly the status of political and social needs, and religion can play its positive role here too. So it has not remained only limited to spiritual aspects or moral aspects, but it has become also politically very much important to understand other religions and have dialogue with the people of different religious denominations. and also the social needs of times also demand such type of dialogue. One common notion in dialogue is that the level of religious misunderstanding is high, especially among ordinary people or people at the grassroots, and because of this, they are vulnerable to being involved in the religious conflicts. Therefore, it is claimed these people have to be educated about dialogue to ensure the maintenance of communal harmony in the contemporary Asian and world context. In the Indian context, one consequence of these forces was the imagination and construction of religion through the Western notions of religion. While there are a number of traditions within what is known as Indian religion, the Western intellectuals and administrators during the colonial times, in their observations and interpretations, simplistically made Indian religions as a singular entity. Moreover, in the process, the traditions were selected to represent the whole of Indian religion for people in the West, which spilled over into Indian understanding. The science of religion or the comparative state of religions established in the West during the 19th century crystallized this process. As a result, Hinduism became a world religion or a major religion, as did Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Confucianism, and others. Discussing the second limitation leads to investigate and understand what is aimed and termed as religious conflict, which is claimed to be crucial to the context of dialogue. As mentioned earlier, the purpose of dialogue, it is often claimed, is to do away with religious conflicts and create communal harmony, peace building, and a non-violent society. In the global context of violence and terrorism, this gets even further significance. The assumption that religion or religions contribute to violence and the uncritical acceptance of this notion in dialogue has, in fact, set many limitations for dialogue. It is often overlooked that what is claimed as religious violence often stems from socio-economic and personal struggles of the people, and from their political intervention, which plays with the religious identities of people in order to receive votes and to achieve political power. For instance, in different countries, what is termed religious conflicts has been at the roots mostly a social issue involving different denominations and oppression or economic struggles between people or people's groups or political manipulations for power or even personal problems between people. Questions such as how they evolve into religious conflicts and how and why they are projected as such and how these economic, political, and social realities are overlooked in dialogue need attention. At this stage, the common humanity, its dignity and fullness needs to be shared, which should become our common concern. For that humanity, to borrow these words from World Council of Churches report of 1961, as I mentioned already. We need to underline this fact that a full and loyal commitment to one's own faith does not stand in the way of dialogue, as has been said already. And dialogue can even strengthen one's own faith in one's own beliefs and in one's own convictions. Moreover, we need to avoid the general tendency of uncritically accepting stereotyping. It sometimes seems that religions are the relics of past that's also to be examined. And an eclectic approach can be developed to solve religious conflicts between the various religious traditions, because finally it is religion which holds before man's imagination the vision and hope transcending all the limitations imposed by life temporal. Because there are two dimensions of religion, it has produced great saints and sages of highest caliber, and second is the role of organized religious communities which have fallen short of that ideal. Because religions have fought and quarreled really for economic and political gains, but religion has been exploited for this purpose. Some political groups have used these conflicts to stress not only relevance of religion, but even to denounce religious values. But how religion can win the battle against skepticism is possible only if thoughtful people belonging to various religions put up a unified front. Also, we have in India had Sufi and Bhakti traditions in Islam and Hinduism, respectively. Both Sufism and Bhakti traditions were based on respect for different religions. The poorer and lower caste Hindus and Muslims were greatly influenced by these traditions. The Sufi and Bhakti saints were highly tolerant and open to the truth in other faiths. They never adopted sectarian attitudes and were never involved in power struggles. They kept away from power structures. Dara Shikoh was there here apparent of Dara Shikoh was here apparent to Shah Jahan, the Mughal emperor, but had Sufi bent of mind and was also a great scholar of Islam and Hinduism. He wrote a book, Majmul Bahrain, the co-mingling of two oceans, Islam and Hinduism, and quoted from Hindu and Islamic scriptures, showed both religions had similar teachings at many places. The difference was of language, Arabic and Sanskrit, and not teachings. Thus, Dara Shikoh also contributed richly to interreligious harmony and dialogue in India. In India, right from the British period, main contradiction was not between religious and secular, but it was between secular and communal. In the Western world, main struggle was between church and state, and church and civil society. But in India, neither Hinduism nor Islam had any church-like structure, and hence there never was any such struggle between secular and religious power structure. Tolerance in India among people of all religions is widely prevalent. It is perhaps due to influence of the ancient doctrines that truth is one, but is manifest in different terms or forms. And on the other hand, due to the Sufi doctrine of Salih Qul, that implies that there is only one real being, and also their view about unity of being. As the ancient Hindu doctrine leads to inclusiveness and peaceful coexistence, so does the Sufi doctrine. For peaceful coexistence under Sufi doctrine of Salih Qul, total peace and peace with all is very important. Sufism left deep influence on the masses of India as much as also on the Muslims themselves. Thus, the real spirit of secularism in India was inclusive. Religious pluralism and peaceful coexistence was very much prevalent. This is the real religious harmony in India. Sheikh Hamiduddin Sufi lived in Suwal, a small village of Nagaur like Rajasthan, and mixed with people of all castes and creeds and adopted different habits of the local masses. As Ram Mohan Rai has envisaged, the inclusiveness and unity in diversity has kept India united in past and has the potential to do the same in present. Two people of similar nature can never get along. It takes two opposites to harmonize, he says. In the lines above, we have enumerated various dimensions of interreligious dialogue, and interreligious understanding goes further than dialogue, where we appreciate the sensibilities of dialogical partners and general masses in particular. Interreligious understanding shows respect and acceptance of their neighbors despite his or her denomination and her moorings. Since our world has become global village and there is no possibility in this world for isolation on any account, we need to learn how to live in plural society, and we can just understand how much intelligence dialogue becomes important for creating such a world. Islam also advises its followers to respect the sensibilities of others and to preach with consideration and to reason with others peacefully, lest the discussion turns into futile argumentation. Chapter 100, chapter 16, verse 125. The Quran says, reason with the people of the book only in graceful manner. Here Muslims have been admonished that they should not involve themselves in fruitless argumentation with the people of the book. We have been again and again exhorted in the Quran to go for the commonalities rather than dissimilarities with people of other scriptures. Come to the common terms between you and others rather than the differences. At the level of scholarship, we have Al-Biruni, Dara Shikoh, Mullah Muhsin Fani, Ibn Hazm, Shahristani in the medieval times, who have done commendable work to start this understanding of Indian and Semitic religions. In modern times, Sayyid Hamid Ali, Muhammad Farooq, Shams Naveed Usmani and others have also done a commendable job to make understanding of these religions easy for the Muslims. Recent Christian scholars like Massinon, Qutaz, Zanir, etc., on the basis of their careful study of the scriptures, have come to the conclusion that the Christians can acknowledge the authenticity of Muhammad's prophethood and Zahir in particular says that he may justly claim to be the seal of the prophets, unquote. In the same way, Ramakrishna Paramhans and his student Swami Vivekananda have also accepted their prophetic experience as an authentic one. And Swami Vivekananda has accepted that Islamic approximation of equality is unparalleled in the history of religions. Gandhi has accepted Islam as a peaceful religion in his different writings. This point needs to be understood in interreligious context, that if the diverse religions are able to live in harmony and peace, that is the only way of their survival in the modern world, which obviously means that they have to understand one another. Among other sublime aims and objectives of the interreligious understanding, these are some main objectives: discovering and promoting the spirit of human righteousness, willingness to recognize truth in religions other than one's own. The religious pluralism on this planet is great opportunity for the followers of the world religions. Therefore, religion needs to be projected to show that it cares more for spreading of love, justice, and truth than for expansion of the institutions through which it operates. The common misunderstanding about the terms like there are the like kafir, jihad, mushrik need to be removed, and all the issues related to Darul Harab, Darul Kufr, and Darul Aman or Darul Muhada need to be explained in a modern context, apart from the historical distortions about different doings of the rulers and the people who were at the helm of affairs, and their role in perpetuating stereotypes about different religions need to be also scrutinized, because there is a general perception that religion has done a lot of violence in the world, and this has been not, the religion had never been peaceful. So, especially in case of Islam, lot of such misunderstandings is there, and this has been spread by the Orientalists. And now we need to study on our own and discover facts for our own understanding. Purely worldly motives, and sometimes from an utterly wrong notion of their religious duties oppressive their non-Muslim subjects. But in doing that, they were not acting upon, but transgressing the code of life prescribed by Islam. This is a very important point. In this regard, we need to take the following measures. Emphasis on unity in diversity, as Islam and other religions always invite us to support the common agenda for righteousness and justice. Birwa taqwa. Provide the real understanding about the particular religions they adhere to, and provide them the proper definition of the sphere of religion so that it does not interfere with man's social, economic, and political progress. The exclusive monopoly on truth by any single religion, because every religion develops and reflects its special socio-economic background. Therefore, any attempt at the artificial construction of a composite religion by a community or of an eclectic religion by a person will not lead to understanding between religions, but to their liquidation. Very prospective definition of secularism has been given by Radhakrishnan when he said, "We today speak of our secular attitudes. We believe in freedom of conscience. Secularism requires us not merely to tolerate, but to understand other religions," unquote. We can say as the understanding of Greek thought helped Muslims and the medieval Western world, and it had rich and fertile results, and Dara Shikoh is the last continuer of short line of activity begun by his great grandfather. He also helped Muslims to understand Hinduism. Thus, he is also an historical figure in the development of Indian thought, as has been said by John van Manen in his foreword to Majmul Bahret. Because he made comparative study of Islam and Hinduism, and he pointed out the various points on which they meet. He has shown the resemblance between the two religions, though ignoring many points of difference, but he had not renounced his own faith and become Hindu is asserted by based by a section of his community. He thinks that Kitab al-Maknoon mentioned in the Quran is Upanishad, and now it is hidden secret, and the actual verses of the Quran can be found here and there in different religious scriptures of Hindus. He says that he examined the religious works of the Hindus who do not negate monotheism, and found that the monotheistic verses contained in the four Vedas have been collected and illustrated in Upanishads, which is an ocean of monotheism. So he undertook literal and correct translation of the work with the help of the Pandits and the sannyasis of Banaras, and accomplished the work in 1067 AH. Maybe because of the same legacy, India has become multi-religious, multilingual, and multicultural nation, yet it has no state religion. According to the Constitution of India, the freedom of religion to all persons is guaranteed and cultural rights of all citizens is established. The Constitution makers considered all the people of India as one with the people of India. Unfortunately, religious chauvinism and communalism has been now on the increase, negating the whole legacy of the past, and people are just trying to vitiate this environment which was created by great sages and the saints and the scholars and the saintly personalities. Some good examples of conferences held for interreligious understanding have been organized in the recent past. The conference was held on 19th and 20th March 1877 of three religions, Christianity, Islam, and Arianism in Chanipura district, Shahjahanpur, UP, in which Swami Ji, Scott, Berley, Muhammad Qasim, Deband, Sayyid Muhammad Mansoor, Munshi, Indra Mani, a well-known Arabic and Persian scholar of Muradabad, were principal representatives of three religions. The object aimed at by the promoters of this conference of the three great religions in India, the first of its kind, was to find out the truth, whether it lay in this or that religion. So in this way, we can talk about interreligious dialogue at academic and at grassroots level. And some of its subtle aspects I have tried to mention, and how it has gone in the history, and how people have tried to relate to each other and to search for the commonalities and try to see what is the divine origin of religion. Because according to our belief, God has sent prophets to all parts of the world, and every nation had some guidance from God. We have to search for that guidance, which is found in different scriptures, and then we can relate with that, and we can just also try to see what are those similarities which are still existing between among different religions, as we have been told by Quran. "Ta'alu ila kalimatin sawa bainana wa bainakum," let us come to the common points between us and others. And also ta'awunu ala birri wa taqwa, we should cooperate with each other on the matters of righteousness and piety, and we should not cooperate with each other al ismi wal udwan, or the sinful activities and oppression or injustice. And it means that we have to search for the common grounds for our social action and for our dialogue, and that is possible for us in modern times also. And if we do that, then there will be clash of civilization, and that is consuming this one country after another country, and lot of bloodshed is there taking place everywhere in the world. And sometimes the name of religion is also used for the invoked for all these wars which are not religious in nature, as has been said by Graham Fuller, that most of the wars and most of the bloodshed has taken place by non-religious people. They have done this, and religions were not responsible for that bloodshed. But sometimes even religion is used for violence, and that is very unfortunate. And only solution to this is that we can have dialogue, we can have understanding, and we can reach to at least a minimum common program for the betterment of the world. And religion should help us in order to grow spiritually and morally, and become just in our behavior, and be good to others, as we want to for goodness for ourselves and for our own kith and kin. So that should be the spirit, and otherwise then religion will lose its importance, and there will be no possibility for a person to have a religious faith and also be a peacemaker in the world. Then every violence will be attributed to religion, and that will bring a bad name to the very essence of religion. As a student of comparative religions, I can say that religion has been never for conflict or for skirmishes or for fight or violence. Religion has had been always there to make us better human beings and to make us to live peacefully and take care of each other's needs and to be very much respectful towards each other. And that is the real essence of religion if it has graduated from religiosity to spirituality. Otherwise, it is just, I should say, an institution which is being used by people for their worldly, gains rather than spiritual, objectives, which is the actual and the real purpose of religion. With these words, I once again feel very much, I should say, indebted to Professor Das and Narayanji and Ranjit Ghoshji and all the friends who have just given very, I should say, they have been very much giving very much importance to such type of topics, and we have been discussing these issues for a long time, and we need to come out with some better, solutions to such problems from the philosophical point of view, and explain these all aspects in such a way which can become very beneficial for modern man so that we can live in peace in this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Hamidullah Marazi sir, for your beautiful lecture. And as usual, you have very nicely dealt with the issues, and you have even put forth various suggestions. To start with, let us move to Dr. Ranjit Ghosh sir to initiate the discussion, and then we'll follow. Okay, let us move to Dr. Ghosh. Namaskar, sir. Please, your views, observations, comments, and your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Professor Marazi, as usual, has given a very lucid exposition of interreligious dialogue. And I have made some observations on his saying. What he has said is totally correct. Not that we cannot, but however, I should say what he has said is true from the academic point of view. So he himself has made a differentiation between academic level and grassroots level. The problem is not in the academic level, because if we go on discussing different religions, we find we can grasp the true nature of religion, that is which is all may be one. This is the thing, all may be one. This is all religions say. But the thing is, the division comes from the real politic, or the situation by which it has started with the Britishers. Because you see, during the medieval ages, when the Christians and Muslims, they were fighting amongst each other in Indian soil, there was no such intoleration and no such division between the Muslims, Hindus, and Jews, Jains, Buddhists, etc. But the thing is, Britishers, they took this position into their account, and they tried to provide this as a as to acquire power. They applied the principle of divide and rule. And for that reason, they have brought all these sort of misdeeds which are not congenial for a fruitful dialogue between the religions. So even the world in the world religion, where Vivekananda gave the version of what religion should be, universal religion, still Britishers here in India, they were trying to see or create certain situations which by which the Muslims and Hindus, they will fight amongst each other, leaving other religions aside, keeping other religions aside. So this created a problem, and on the basis of this religious basis, the creation of Pakistan and Hindustan was made by them, and by some situations or other that we read from history, such a division was created. And from then onwards, the psyche of the Indians, which in the Indians took a different turn altogether. because Hindus are majority and Muslims are minorities. And the government tried to make this minority appeasement, and for which they have created several programs, and some programs are at the cost of the majority, the Hindus. So these sort of things actually creates barriers for the interreligious understanding. We can what is our aim? Our aim is not interreligion religious dialogue. Our aim is interfaith dialogue, and from interfaith dialogue to interpath dialogue, I should say interpath dialogue. That means we should go together. So Ambedkar, the great man, I should say always, that he foresaw this thing, for which he never brought secularism in through the preamble to the Constitution of India. But you know the historical situation by which Indira Gandhi brought it, and all these things, the word secularism in the preamble to the Constitution of India. Otherwise, you see, in India, because of these things, as the animosities grew more and more, the part of the most important aspect of dialogue, which is based on listening the other, that become a total failure, because nobody wants to listen the other's point of view. Somebody is saying that they are benefited at the cost of ours, and others will say no, we have to be benefited. So this is just a vote bank politics, which has been created by a particular party for over all these 70 years, has created this problem in the interreligious dialogue or interfaith dialogue. Interfaith and interreligious, must be knowing that interfaith was used by the Protestants. When the Catholics and Protestants, they fought, they termed a new one, that is interfaith. But what should be our aim, as you have rightly told, that we must have the interpath dialogue. That means a path which can be traversed by all the communities, and especially the Hindus and Muslims. This tension must go from India. But God knows when it will become possible. Thank you.
Thank you. You're right. Basically, I feel that Britishers have just sowed the seeds of dissension among Muslims and Hindus, and we became victim of that. I was thinking that long back, when the Sikhs wanted to get the foundation of their golden temple laid, they asked a Sufi Muslim, whose name was Mir Qadri, to lay down the foundation of the golden temple. Such was the relation between the Sikhs and Muslims. And even they have just included part of the Baba Farid's Bani in their book, that is Granth Sahib. In the same way, there was a great interaction between the Muslim Sufis and the Hindu, masses, and also scholars. And we can see in this Dara Shukla, as I mentioned, how he went to, and even Al-Biruni, he could go to this different type of Hindu sadhus and scholars and pandits, and learned from them many lessons about their religion. So such was the relationship between the people, despite there were the rulers, where they were kings, those days Muslim kings. So at the level of the scholars and the people, there was very good relation. But after coming of the Britishers, they have written history in such a way as there had been always animosity among Muslims and Hindus and other communities. And we became the victim of their interpretation of the history, and we could not correct that. And that created more problems for us. And then they divided us earlier, and now they divide us today, intellectually. And they don't allow us to understand each other's sensibilities and the problems, and try to cooperate on the common issues where we all have stakes. So in this way, the duty of the scholars is to bridge the gap and try, at least I always say it, when the Orientalists can study, religions of the East, why not Muslims study Hinduism? Why not Hindus study Islam and other religions here? So why we are not becoming experts of each other's religions? We do study, living together for centuries, but we don't know each other's sensibilities. That's very unfortunate. At least I was in USA. I found that there are 200 universities where all the world religions are being taught. But see, in our universities, how many other religions are being taught? Only few. There is no comparative study of religions, and only to know one religion is to know nothing. So unless and as has been said by Max Moore, we need to understand other religions, and then we can be sensible. Otherwise, we will always float such type of theories which will create more hatred, and that is not the way, because people have to live together. As has been said by one of the great visionary, he says the only alternative to coexistence is co-destruction. We should learn lessons from the West. They have been just fighting always, and their theories are based on clash, conflict, and survival of the fittest. So if we also follow Western people, blindly, our problem will be also same. It will be only war, it will be only violence, and there will be no cooperation, and that will create more problems for us to solve. Maybe if timely we can get some benefits out of that conflict, but finally it will be loss of the humanity, and it will be not good for the people of the different nations who are living, who need to live in prosperity and unity among themselves, and they can't fight always. They have to reconcile. We have to live in pluralistic societies. We can't have only one religion at one place. We can't have one community. We have to live in such a world which is very much diverse, and all people have to live together, and they have to learn how to live together and honor each other's sensibilities. So the scholars have the role to play, and the religious scholars also, to bring people closer rather than take them away from each other. And that is creating problems for us at every level. So you are right. What you said, you are right in the sense, and that Britishers had a very negative role when they wrote the history, and then they tried to divide people uh, on this basis or that basis. But our way has been always, as I mentioned, in the Oriental way has been dialogue, samvad, and we have solved our problems by dialoguing rather than fighting. And then we reach out to different doctrines and different theories, different philosophies, and that was the beauty of East and Orient. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Marathi. Thank you very much. Um, Now let us move to Professor Avinash Srivastav sir for his observations, his comments and
Thank
questions.
you, sir.
Namaskar, sir. Please, you are good.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Let me first congratulate Professor Maraji for his brilliant exposition, and he has
Thank you, sir.
delivered in a very nice way. And I always like his speech. He
Thank
has
you.
always been in favor to uh, combine all the differences by quoting several texts of the Quran and Hadith and so many things. And in the same way, he has tried to appreciate the other religious texts, and he has tried to peep into the facts. But what happens? And in this way, I do agree with him. In ancient time, we were all one because uh, it was Raskhan who belonged to Kabul who said, Manus ho to bahera se khan base braj gokilu gaँव के ग्वारन जो खग हो तो बसेरे करे नित कालिंदी कूल कदम्ब के डारन. It means कि even if I have to take a birth, then I would like to live on the if I happen to be the bird, I would like to live on the branches of the trees where the Krishna was living and nearby Kalindi Kul. And if I happen to be a stone, then I would like to be the part of that mountain that was upheld by Lord Krishna. So these things were there. Not only that, even Kabir Das was also very much optimistic in the way to have, he has decried all the differences. At one place he says, Kankar Pathar जोड़ के मस्जिद लियो चुनाए ताचड़ी मुल्ला बांग दे क्या बहरा हुआ खुदा है. And at the same time he says कि पाहन पूजे हरि मिले तो मैं पूजू पहाड़ ताते वो चक्की भली peace खाए संसार. And at that time it was so communal harmony was there, and religious dialogue was so strong that neither Hindus nor Muslims opposed to his words, rather they have enjoyed it. Now what happened that we have come a little bit mane, apologistic to it, this animosity, how it emerges, and partially Professor Marazi and Professor Ranjit Ghosh are correct in their approach. It is because of the politics. But for we intellectuals, the scholars, we will have to peep into the problem. And to my mind, I may be correct or may not be correct. Uh, in Jainism, there is a very beautiful uh, thought of Syadvad. If at
Yeah.
all you disagree with them, Syad, it may be that he is correct. It may be I am also incorrect because no one knows the entire truth of the world. Because we see the partial reality. We do not know the entire reality. He says कि the holistic vision is not possible, is not, men are not having, and that's why they must accept that you might be correct, I might be incorrect, I may be correct in a particular way, you might be correct in a particular sat asti syat nasti syat asti cha nasti cha. So in that way saptabhanginya is there. If we adopt that formula, I think the communal harmony will complete, will take its uh, it will appear in the full phase. So we must be optimistic in that way. We should not be very negative that we cannot meet together, because we all are we all have emerged from the same soil, from the same feeling, that is the feeling of the one nation. And these differences can melt out only because of the interreligious dialogues. And this dialogue can be made possible if the scholars like Marazi and others, their ideas percolate in the common mass. I think it will be an ideal situation. Thank you, Professor Marazi, for your brilliant deliberation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It is always a pleasure to listen from you, and especially your vast knowledge about so many, I should say,
It is your
religious
humility, sir.
scriptures.
It is your humility, nothing.
It was really, very nice. So one point I will just like mention here is that there is a lot of ignorance. Let me, because I feel that when we are not knowing the actual scriptures, for example, what the Orientalists have said about Islam or Muslims, that is being accepted as gospel truth. But if we study on our own, for example, I have gone through Bible, I have gone through Gita, I have gone through Upanishads or Vedas, so I could realize many things on my own rather than to listen from others what they say about the different religions. We need to try to go to the scriptures and the actual history of different religions. Then we can have a totally first-hand knowledge about those religions, and then we can appreciate things. But when we are just going by the interpretation of people, as they have mentioned, and they have made a lot of propaganda against different religions because of the political reasons or other reasons, and that creates reshapes the environment, and then that also bars the dialogue process. So we need to study religions from the scriptures and try to go to the original sources rather than secondary sources, and try to ourselves discover what is found in different religions and what are their positions about different issues. And then we can appreciate the treatment of those religions about different problems. And as a Muslim, we believe that all the nations had, prophets. They had books from God, and this truth has come from God from in all throughout the annals of history. So it is not only one nation which have received this revelation from God. So there are remnants of truth still available everywhere in the world. So if we search for those common grounds of truth and religion, then we can reach to common conclusions, and we can reach to some common minimum program, and through which we can start our journey towards truth and harmony and peace in the world. Thank you very
Do
much.
agree with you, sir. Vedas also says, Ekang Sad Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. The
Yeah,
reality and truth is the one, and different people speak in a different way. So they are then nothing but the expression of the same truth in a different form. But the existence in reality has been expressed by Professor Ranjit Ghosh. The existential reality is that we are not understanding the things. It is the need of the time to peep into the situation, ponder over the problem, and come out with a solution that may percolate in the common mass. How we can make the people convince that we all are one. All the religions are having their own truths, but they are partial one. And particularly, what you have talked about uh, Sufism, that has emerged after the translated books of Upanishad and so many by Dara Shikoh, and it went to the Arabian countries, and thereafter the Sufism has emerged. And for your information, the Sufi uh, Mansur, who said Anal Haq, and he was hanged to the death. And that's why the Sufis have changed their point of view, and they have written the entire thing in a different way. And that's why, just like I tell you, they have just narrated the Upanishad in a different way. मैं तुझे पाने की हरदम जुस्तजू करता रहूं, सबसे तेरे प्यार की मैं गुफ्तगू करता रहूं, राज हक की नेमतें बख्शी है जो मैं तेरे मेरे लिए, रात भर रात दिन उसकी नुमाइश चार सू करता रहूं. What is this? He is talking about the Brahma, and he says, मैं तू बनूं तू तू रहे मुझ में समा जा इस तरह, भूल जा मैं खुद को मैं बस तू ही तू करता रहूं. This is nothing but the common points that has been taken from the Islam, as well as major point form is it from the Upanishads and all the scriptures. So they have, it is a very nice mingling of inter-religion union. So I think that's why this Sufism is spread all over the world in a wonderful way, and it has even today you will find in Hindus also, they worship the Sufis. And what I have learned from a guru who happens to be Hindu, but he chants all these verses, all these Sufi songs. Always he speaks like that, and I feel that it is the reality if we follow the Sufism, because it has incorporated most of the good elements from the Upanishads and the Hindu religion. And if you see all the verses there, that Karna Nandidar Mahal Bis Pyara hai, here also we say that the Atman is Ishvara Sarvabhutanang Hridaya She Arjun Tishtati Brahmya Sarvabhutani Yantra Rurhani Maya. So there is no difference between all these things. We will have to think in positive way how we can reconcile these existential differences that have appeared on their surface in the ugliest form. Thank you, Professor Marazi, for your great work.
Thank you, Professor Srivastava, for your.
Hello. I just want to add one sentence which Professor Maraji may explain further, and that is what we need is to inculcate a creative coexistence. We are talking about creative philosophizing, creative this, but creative coexistence is most necessary for any type of interfaith understanding. This is my.
I would like to add one point is that how we can create that creative coexistence. That's only possible when we appreciate the scriptures. We read the scriptures. For example, translations are available nowadays. How many Muslims study Gita? How many Muslims study Vedas? How many Hindus study Quran? Quran, not the books which have been written by Orientalists. And then they have said so many things which are totally inimical towards Islam. And people accept that as gospel truth, as I said already. So we need to study on our own these books. And then we can find that there are the truths which are enshrined in all these scriptures, where we can relate ourselves also. When I studied, for example, Gita, I could find that in Gita there are many things which are very much in consonance with Quran and with Islam. And in Vedas also, I could find many things which are very close to the spirit of Islam. And in this way, that helped me. And when I studied Bible and Torah and this Sandavista and then Granth Sahib, there I could also relate many things. Because the comparative study of religions has helped me to understand my religion better. And this can be also, otherwise, for other friends and colleagues, Let us not have the bias to open our mind to study other religion scriptures and try to discover on our own, because to know only our religion is not sufficient, and then we can perceive the religions from the prism of our own religious understanding and try to see our things in that religion. But if we study those religions as they are, whether we may not agree with everything what our is in that religion, but at least we can appreciate their teachings on their own, and then we can relate many things of them with our religion. There may be differences, there may be similarities, but we can appreciate both differences as well as similarities. That's only possible, as you said rightly, the creative coexistence is possible only when we know the actual scripture rather than the secondary sources or the sources which are coming from inimical forces. As you know, there has been a good number of Orientalists who have destroyed Hinduism, who have destroyed Islam, who have destroyed Sikhism, Buddhism, and they have presented such an interpretation of these religions which is not in consonance with the actual teachings of these books, scriptures. But as a believing Muslim, for example, or a person who is a believing Hindu, if we study other scriptures without any bias, without any prejudice, we can appreciate good points there, and then we can relate ourselves to those points, and that can help us to reach out to others also, and to touch the conscience of other communities, rather than if we quote just people who have been writing on religions, but they have some agenda, and that agenda is agenda is based on imperialist designs of the West or whatever it is, or clash of civilization, and they want to show others as uncivilized. They want to show others as barbaric and themselves as civilized, whereas they have been doing such acts which are worse than barbarism. In many ways, you can see what has happened in the West, how they are killing each other, how they are dropping bombs on the innocent people, and then they don't care. They don't call them humans. They say they are human animals. You can see, and how we can take their line and just study the religions of our own people who are living with us. So let us have Oriental understanding of our religions rather than Western understanding of our religions. Let us develop our own understanding of our own ethos, our own communities who are living together with us for centuries, rather than believing what others say about them and just making our perception. And that has created the problems, and the creative coexistence, very beautiful expression you have made. That's only possible when we just creatively involve ourselves with each other's understanding of their identity, their religion, their culture, their civilization, their contribution. And we need to appreciate the contribution which they have made to the civilization, science, philosophy, architecture, and everything. And rather than just seeing the negative aspects from the prism which West has presented before us, because they are only seeing the negativities of every culture and every civilization except their own. And we should just ourselves rediscover the contribution of different communities, and those communities have also contributed a great deal to the development, advancement of the culture and civilization and science and everything. And if we just take those things together, that can help us a great deal, and we can definitely just reach to this creative coexistence and understanding, and then we can cooperate, we can help each other, and we can make this world a better world to live in, and others can just learn from us rather than we learn from them how to approach our own people, our own communities who are living with us together for centuries together. So this is one point which I wanted to just highlight. Thank you.
You have made a distinction between religiosity and spirituality.
Yeah.
I think religiosity should be discussed at the academic level, and spirituality should be left for the grassroots level. So this is the way out, I think. So there will be no conflict, and everybody must be spiritual. A man must be spiritual. So he cannot but be spiritual. So there will be no confusion, no conflict. This I have taken the cue from your suggestion. And so religiosity should be there. We will go on discussing which is pros and cons of this thing. But at the grassroots level, it is spirituality. And I think that is what these days the age-old tradition of Sanatan Dharma is bringing forth before us. So that is the way that Sanatan Dharma asks us to understand our spirit and not it as a something as a religious product of some supernatural entity. Thank you. This is my observation. Thank you, sir.
Okay, very nice.
Thank you, Professor Ghosh, Professor Maraji. Well, two, three important things that have come from the lecture of Professor Maraji and the discussion that followed. First of all, very good thing that has come from Professor Maraji's lecture is that interreligious dialogue, if it is to be a very good one, there needs to be a focus on the understanding, a real understanding of one's own religion through the ideas expressed in other religions. If you make your own religion, well, a compartment type, okay, it is totally a neutral system with no adaptability to the cultures, the traditions, the practices that are there in other religions where you live it. Okay, there will be no talk of the creative coexistence or the coexistence at all, because you are making yourself okay, okay, you are making yourself totally tight within your own structure. So there is no open dialogue. In order to open up, what is more important is not a total commitment to one your own religion. Where you say you have a total commitment to your own religion, then there can be no open dialogue. For a dialogue to be possible, it is possible only when you are there with an open mind, with a neutral mind, with a reason based mind to inspect, to see what good things are practiced in others and where we lack. It is only then, and also at the same time, propagate, put forth the ideas that you express best. So, in the process, there can be a give and take process, and that's how the religions grow. Okay, in the process, either side, there is a growth on the either way, and there would be a sort of acceptance on either side. But if we come with an agitated mind, with a sort of a commitment to my own tradition, my own belief, then that leads to a problem, and there will be no harmony, there will be distrust, there will be no peaceful coexistence. This is number one. The good thing that has come from your lecture. Now, number two, the very good point that you have said is that violence has no place in religion. Violence has no place in religion. Religion, when you talk of religion, it is totally violence free. There is no place of violence in religion. But once any act, any step that induces violence, then the person so connected with violence is not a religious person. He may belong to any religion whatsoever. If he has an expression to violence, if he is committed to violence in the name of religion, he is not at all a religious person. So any denomination, any religious denomination that you take, so this is another good thing that we have really come up with, and this is really, I think, a very good point that you have accepted. Violence has no place in religion. The third important point that you said about the Eastern religions is a sort of acceptance, a sort of tolerance, and also a sort of acceptance, rather than the Western side where there is a thesis antithesis conflict, where there is an opposition, where there is a clash. Such sort of clash is not there. Rather, there is a coexistence, there is a peace, there is a harmony between the communities that are living since ages. And Professor Ranjit Khosa has really pointed out that sort of harmony was somehow broken in the past, in the medieval period and later periods, when the Britishers came in and they brought in the policy of divide and rule to break the the harmony that was there. So this is how we practice. We were going through that sort of setup, and that has percolated through our mind to such an extent that we are not coming out of that system. Rather, and the final point that you have raised is, instead of having a superficial approach to religion, one should go with the original. One should learn from different religions. At the same time, one should inspect into the religious traditions of one's own and others through the original text rather than moving to what others say, because the interpretations differ, and many times we land up in wrong interpretations, and that will lead us nowhere rather than to tension. So the best way to come out is we have translations of, say, various religious texts that are available, and we have to go through those translations to find out what can be best possible to bring out an open dialogue where that we can have a peaceful coexistence. So these are the important things that have come up, and I really appreciate. I really feel good listening to this. So thank you so much, sir. Well, we have with us Professor Pramod Madar, sir. Let us welcome him and to have his observations. At the same time, sir, we have very good messages in the chat box by Kavadi Mr. Madam. He has appreciated your talk, and he says your talk is very useful for peaceful coexistence in the society. So thank you so much, sir. Well, let us move to Professor Das for his observation.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, audible.
Really, this is a very interesting discussion. I appreciate the discussion uh, made by all, Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir, and Dr. Rao, Professor Maraji, and Abhinash Srivastavaji. I shall have my observation, being a compliment to Professor Maraji, that he spoke very well about inter religious dialogue, and when he speaks, he forgets his own religion. That is his greatness. That should be the attitude of a speaker. The point is, when we are discussing about unity or harmony between all religions, we are not ignoring the distinctness of our own religion. That is the point. Suppose I am a Hindu, I belong to Hinduism. My religion is distinct, no doubt. Similarly, Islamism as a religion is distinct. It has its own identity. Okay. So when we are discussing, therefore we are talking about inter-religious dialogues or inter-religious understanding. If we don't have any distinctness, then there is no question of something inter. Something inter is there means we have our own identity. My habit, my way of life, belonging to a particular community, belonging to a particular religion. Yes, I am a Hindu. Yes, he is a Muslim. Yes, he is a Christian. This distinction is there. But in spite of this distinct identity, we should have respect for other religions, as Radhakrishnan said very beautifully and quoted by Professor Maraji, that we should not try to tolerate. When there is a question about tolerance, then it is a negative attitude, that there is something negative and I am tolerating the opposite. There is no opposite at all. I respect my distinctness. I am distinct. At the same time, I have respect for the other distinct identities. As I am distinct, similarly he is also distinct. All others are also they have their distinct identities. We should have this sense, otherwise we can't discuss about something inter. Very beautifully Professor Maharaji said that, and to the question of Professor Ghosh, that how it is possible that there will be peaceful coexistence, that we should go through the original scriptures, original text of all religions, and we should not be biased by the misinterpretations made by different scholars. So that is a very beautiful point. Because if we take it scholarly, if we take it very seriously, if you are really serious about something inter-religious dialogues, then that should be through the proper understanding of the scriptures, the concepts, the issues. As Abhinav Srivastava said, and it's also declared by Vedas, that the truth is one and it's declared differently, interpreted differently by different scholars. Similarly, no scripture can give any message which is not truth, which is not akin to truth. Every scripture speaks about the truth, but the habits are different, the rituals are different, the practices are different, the language is different, and other social formalities are different, and we have to accept and respect the diversities. And very beautifully, Professor Maraji said that diversity is natural. We cannot have one community, one religion. We are speaking about Vasundhaiva Kutubakam, but that does not mean that we shall live under one umbrella of one religion, one community, one belief. It is not necessary at all, because of the population, because of our freedom of thought, because of our freedom of choice, we may have our distinct identities. Very beautifully, Bhagavad Gita says. Of course, in another context, it has been said, Swadharme nihata shreya paradharma bhayabha. I shall die as a Hindu. If I take dharma in this sense, dharma has a different meaning. But in this context, we may say, yes, I am born as a Hindu. I shall die as a Hindu. I may not adopt the principles of other religions as per my personal living is concerned. So far as my distinct identity is concerned, I may not accept the formalities of the ways of living of other religions. I shall die as a Hindu because that is better for me. So dharme may I die, but that does not mean that I am other religions are problem for me. That does not mean that I am disturbed by, I am agitated with other religions. That is the point. So with our distinct identity, we can cope with the diversities. So when we are talking about the diversities, we are not talking at the cost of our distinct identity. This misunderstanding should not be there. My distinct identity is there, very much confirmed. I am that is secure. That is not disturbed at all. Yes, I am a Hindu, but being a Hindu, I have no problem with other religious denominations. Therefore there is a call for interreligious dialogue, that we can discuss, we can sit together, we can discuss, we can what happens in discussion. Suppose now we are discussing, many good points are discussed about different religions. Suppose Professor Maraji really belongs to Islam religion, and he is an expert in Islamism. So from him we can learn the real meaning of different concepts and issues, and from us, as we are really Hindus, he can also learn from us. So so inter-dialogue program is uh, a program for mutual learning, that we can learn from each other and we can teach others. Okay, so that is the point, and that is possible for the human beings in this modern age. So we have suffered a lot. Professor Ghosh said that how Britishers have exploited us. That is the past. That has gone. Now this is the time that we should come forward. All religious people should come forward. They will have their honor, their distinct identity, belonging to different religions, and with that we should have a respect for acceptance for other religions, as Radhakrishnan very beautifully said, and I appreciate this quote. Thank you, sir. Today's talk is really very lucid, as Professor Ghosh said. It is very lucid. I think that, and there is a distinction between academic and grassroots. Yes, if it is academically sound, we hope for its betterment in the grassroots also. So the theory should be converted to practice. We should live accordingly. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you all. This is my
I want to add one thing, that you see, being the Gandhian principle of Sarva Dharma Samanata, if that be the presupposition, then this type of interreligious conflict and conflict resolution becomes possible. Because if we start with that presupposition that all religions are equal, then when there will be a dialogue, it will never be reduced into a monologue. It will be a dialogue, because others will also, and it comes through participation. And I think this will be relevant for, and that's why Gandhi used this Sarva Dharma Samanata. Thank you.
Sir, Ranjit sir, this attitude is sufficient. This attitude is sufficient that we are calling for this program. Let us come and sit and have a inter-religious dialogue. This attitude is sufficient. That we are sitting for discussion. We are ready to learn other religions through scriptures and through speakers also, through intellectuals, through experts. Okay, so this is a very good time, I think. If actually this is happening, maybe slowly happening, but I can see see its bright future. So this is a very good sign. At least we are ready for interreligious dialogue. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Academic level is all right. The problem is at the grassroots level, because the politicians, they are the real creators of this sort of mischief. That is why they try to project one religion is higher than other. So this is the problem in India. So may not be elsewhere. Professor Maraji might be knowing this in other places. For mere votes, few votes, they are trying to. The other day I got the difference between Tushtikaran and Santushtikaran, because Tushtikaran is for a minority section and it is a minority appeasement, but Santushtikaran is for all. So these politicians, they are always trying in their vote bank politics to gain votes in the electoral political system. You see, in the Bengal, the Karnataka, what has happened? They have said, we'll do this for the Muslim, do this or that. But after this one, and I think about 1 year has passed, they have done nothing. So this is the thing. They are befooling us, the Hindus and Muslims both. So we have to be very careful about these politicians, and that is how we are living in our day-to-day life. Thank you.
Sir, I think political anomalies and other problems may be solved by this interreligious dialogue if we really mean that. If it is really going to happen, then when people will come forward, when intellectuals will come forward to have interreligious dialogue, politics will be collapsed. Maybe late, but I am hopeful. And that should be. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. One thing that comes to mind at this juncture, that one can have his or her own religious identity, and we can really exist as human beings with lot of understanding, mutual cooperation. But the need of the day is there should be a call for the separation of religion from politics. If you have a politics structure, if you want to build a political structure, if you want, you don't bring in religion. Politics should be made religion free. If that is possible, then a, then a good number of things can come to the fore. But that is not happening. That is not happening. So if we can really bring in the separation of uh, politics from religion, I can think I can think this religious dialogue, interreligious dialogue, would really result in having a very good turn. And the problem that we have, as Professor Ghosh has pointed out, is not at the academic level. The problem is at the grassroots level, at the common mass. Because once you are mixing politics, religion with politics, it is getting mixed up in such a bad shape that people having a little understanding of religion come up in huge voices as if they have proper knowledge of religion, which they don't have. So that is the problem. If we are able to separate politics from religion, then really we can have a very good, I think, harmony in the society where we live. So this is my submission. Thank you so much. Well, we have with us um, Dhawan said he wanted to say something. Well, I welcome him. At the same time, Dr. Naseem, I'm not able to read his name because on my mobile, half the name is there. Okay, they are also welcome. If they want to say something, they are welcome. I invite. Sorry, I'm not able to read the name full because I'm on the mobile and the name is coming up. Dr. Nazim, maybe. Sir, if you're interested, your views, your observations, sir. Okay. Anyway, let's move to Brindavan, sir. Sir, please your views. Anything you have, or otherwise we'll wind up. Well, I'm not finding any. Well, Brindavan, sir. Yes.
Sir, am I audible, sir? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Audible. Audible.
Yes, sir. Uh, really, uh, Professor Muraji uh, has explained the paper today that the inter-religious dialogue. I think it is very much essential in present day because uh, as that the entire global violence based on this religion, if you will analyze the violence happening in the entire globe, it is only based on religion. The one thing, it is my observation, and religion should be free from politics, and politics should be free from religion. And I fully agree with Dr. Ghosh that he has explained very nicely. His observation is, I think, very much acceptable. That there should be the interpath in different religions. Universal religion is also possible in previously Vivekananda has told that there should be a universal religion. There should be a uniqueness in different religions. Our aim should be one. Their ways may be different. Doesn't matter. It is also possible. Why not possible? Uh, if I will say my religion is perfect, and Maraji will say his religion is perfect, then the controversy will arise. So there should be a inter relationship between the different religions, which was the aim of discussion of today, made by Professor Maraji. Okay, this is my simple observation, and I completely agree with Dr. Ghosh that he has explained the matter in a very dynamic way. Thanks.
Thank you, Brindavan, sir. Well, anybody is interested to have questions or comments, they are welcome. I'll wait for half a minute. Otherwise, let us move to Dr. Kailash Mahana, sir. Well, he's there now. Well, I request him. Dr. Altaf Hussain, sir. Well, sir, now I am able to see his one name properly. Well, do you want to say something, sir? Dr. Altaf Hussain, sir. Anyway, anyway. So, thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Now, let us move to Dr. Kailash Mahana, sir, for proposing a formal vote of thanks. I request him. Though he joined late, but still I request him. Dr. Maharana.
Hello.
Namaskar, please.
Hello.
Please, sir. Yes.
Hello. Am I audible? Hello. Am I
You're,
audible?
you're audible but
Hello.
not visible. You're audible but
Okay.
not
Okay.
visible.
Okay. I am in the car. I am okay traveling to my destination. Okay. I was listening to the talk of Professor Maraji on the theme interreligious dialogue and present day relevance. And I was also listening the observation made by Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir, Professor Avinash, and Professor Pramod Kumar Das, and Professor Rao, and Professor Vrindavan sir. So one thing that I kicked from all kinds of the discussion that uh, inter-religious conflicts arise when we do have religious misunderstanding, when we do not understand the concepts of religion, the religious concepts. So, uh, when we understand, when we do have conceptual clarity on the religious concepts, then all kinds of peace and harmony will be established, and it will promote the interreligious understanding and interreligious faith. So today, I uh, I have enjoyed all the talk made by Professor Hamidullah Maraji and the observations made by our learned professors from different universities and colleges. And I'm traveling in the car, so I I'd like to extend my gratitude to Professor Hamidullah Maraji and Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir, Professor Avinash, Professor Rao, Professor Pramod Kumar Das, Professor Vrindavan, Madam Sravani Das, for their beautiful observations. And thanks so much to all the audience for participating in a beautiful webinar in this webinar. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm traveling in the car.
Okay, okay. Okay, we also thank you for thanking everybody. Well, with this note, let us move to Professor Pramod Kumar Das for declaring the meeting closed. So, with a lot of love
I
and
thank
respect to Professor
I
Maharaj, yes, let us
I
move to Professor. Sure, sir.
I also thank Dr. Maharana. In spite of traveling, he was listening the beautiful discussion made by us. Thank you, sir. This is the spirit of a philosophical discussion, and I shall request Dr. Ghosh to select the topic as decided in the last Sunday. So we shall program that very soon. Uh, and with this, the session is declared closed. Thank you all. Grateful to all.